Welcome to Empower Her Radio, the space for powerhouse women ready to step into their next level of abundance, purpose, and personal freedom. I'm Dr. Corey Winn, a high performance coach, doctor of physical therapy, philanthropist, and business consultant. I help ambitious women align with their highest calling, expand their wealth and impact, and create a life that feels as good as it looks. If you're a high achieving woman who's built success yet finds yourself craving more alignment, more purpose, more ease, you're in the right place. Here, we bridge the gap between ambition and fulfillment. Through transformative conversations and proven strategies, you'll gain the courage to step into the fullest expression of you. Build a powerhouse business that aligns with your expertise and divine gifts, and lead your life, both personally and professionally, with unshakable confidence, worthiness, and compassion. This is about expansion, legacy, and owning your power unapologetically. You already have everything inside of you to create a life of unlimited possibility. It's time to unlock it. Welcome to your next level. Let's dive in. This episode of Empower Her Radio with Dr. Corey Winn is brought to you by Her Quantum Rise, the private coaching experience for the woman who refuses to play small. Her Quantum Rise is where high-achieving women come to elevate their leadership, align with their deepest purpose, and unlock overflow in every area of life. This is where you shed the old paradigm, step into your highest identity, and rise with clarity, certainty, and unstoppable momentum. If you're ready to move from doing it all to leading from grounded power, if you feel the pull toward a bigger life, a bigger mission, and a bigger capacity to receive, then I would love to explore what this next level looks like for you. Book a complimentary call at www.coreywin.com/free call and step into the room where your expansion becomes inevitable. Your rise starts here. Before I introduce today's guest, I want to share something close to my heart. Throughout the month of February, in honor of Black History Month, this show is intentionally creating space to amplify Black women who are leading, building, healing, creating, and shaping the future in powerful ways. These are women who I admire, women who I learn from, women who deserve to be heard, celebrated, and fully seen, not just this month, but always. And today's conversation is a beautiful example of that. I am so excited for today's conversation. My guest, Dr. Melanie Gray, is a woman who embodies what it looks like to evolve professionally, personally, and energetically without abandoning ambition. She brings depth, wisdom, and a grounded understanding of what it truly means to create success that feels aligned, sustainable, and fulfilling. This conversation is especially for the woman who's done everything right, yet she knows she's meant for more. Dr. Gray, welcome to Empower Her Radio.
Oh, Dr. Winn, thank you so much for having me.
So before we really dive into everything we were just chatting about off the air, how did you get where you are now? I'd love for you to take us back. Can you share your journey?
Yes, so I'm going to tell the truth and nothing but the truth this morning, okay? And so the truth is that I have been in my career, I'm celebrating 41 years
Oh,
as a nurse. And so the journey of 41 years has been a progressive one that resulted in where I am. So I spent the first 20 years in my career. I was a staff nurse. I worked at the bedside. And I really loved it. I was the first generation college student in my family. My father had grown up in the fields in the deep South. His whole family was raised of 9 kids and a wife on $300 a year. So my father saw a very rugged life. My mother, who's now 90, they had come from
can
jail.
we just pause for just a second and acknowledge the fact that that was not that long ago?
It was not that long ago.
That was not that long ago. And I hope that our listeners here hear that piece of it. Okay, I'm sorry. I just
Yeah,
had
oh,
to.
that's okay. And so my mom, thank you for that. Thank you. My mom, they both grew up through Jim Crow segregation, the whole thing. And when I looked at ancestry, it said my mothers, my grandmothers, and my aunts, they were on the census records as domestics, as laundry washers. They weren't even recognized by their name. But I say all that to say that my parents, in having me, had a hope that that would just not be my life. That I wouldn't end up in a bad marriage, that I would be able to go straight from high school to college. And so I was able to do that. They provided that for me. I went straight from high school to college. The happiest day, Dr. Wynn, that I still recall, my mother at 90 still recalls it in my father's life, was the day he took me to college and set up my room. It was, it was like, my baby's not in the field. She's going to college,
A proud dad moment. Those are
proud
the
dad
best.
moment. And that still resonates with me. And I say that because that motivated me, the fact that he was proud. And so I was a staff nurse for a long time. My dad said, I said, Daddy, are you proud of me? He said, you have done more than I ever could have hoped. And in the 20 years, so I was a staff nurse for 20 years. And then actually in my early 40s, somebody said to me, well, Melanie, when are you going to do something different? Aren't you tired of being at the bedside? I'm like, what? What? What do you mean do something different? But I had two back injuries. I was working in ICU. I had two back injuries. And on the second one, I said, I might need to pivot so that I don't disable myself. And I
Right.
that is what led to me going back to school, getting my master's and then my doctorate. And I had another 20 years in higher education. In that 20 years, you get different skill sets. So I got my doctorate in online learning and curriculum design. I thought I was going to do curriculum design as my last thing to do. And I did it as a consultant, Dr. Wynn, for 6 years. And I'm like, oh no, this is not going to work full time. And then, and then, COVID happened. And I got a nudge from an executive leader who says, Melanie, we need you work good with nurses. You've been in Black nurses, Wisconsin nurses, all of this. We need you to help encourage our team members around trauma-informed care because we want to help our team members during this COVID crisis, and we want to help patients. And so that led to my subject matter expertise and around wellness. I worked for one of the third largest health system in the nation, and I did that. And then, oh, I had another pivot. I thought I was going strong, Dr. Wynn. I was going strong. I'm a subject matter expert. I'm going strong, honey. And then they tapped me last fall. They said, well, Melanie, we love all the work you've done, but we're not going to have your position anymore. And I said, oh, okay, okay. So I have to pivot again. I still have my knowledge, I still have me. And so what am I going to do with it? And so I made the decision at that time to move forward and share my expertise in other ways, this time on the bench of Melanie Gray Solutions.
I love that. I love that so much. And I hope our audience hears not only the passion in your voice, but the fact that you've pivoted and you've moved and you've changed. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, how many women do you
Mm-mm.
speak to on a regular basis who are like, no, I have to stay in this box. I have to stay in this lane. I don't have the skill set to move or pivot. And like so many of our guests, yes, you do.
You
You
do.
have. You are the living, breathing version of that. And recognizing your skill set and how it can pivot between places and be in multiple scenarios is really important too. I think so many of us as women think, well, we chose this lane and I don't have the skills to move over here. But you've
Oh,
shown that
yeah.
you do over and over and over again.
Oh, you have transferable skills. You have transferable skills that might immediately be able to be used in another environment, but you might have transferable skills that you can add on to reinvent yourself. But you just have to be willing, and it does take courage. I would
Mhm.
also say that change takes planning.
Yes.
Yeah, I always knew that one day I would be 60 something. And I it planned intentionally on keeping relationships with people that were 10, 20, 30, 40 years younger than me intentionally. I'm always looking for a young face, not because I always am, because I want to keep learning and growing. And they're the ones, my next gen friends is what I kind of call them, help me get to where I am very quickly because they had the skill set. They're digital nomads. I'm trying to figure it out, in many ways. But you have to have I think a longitudinal perspective of your life, so that you don't compartmentalize yourself and thinking, oh, life stops at 40. Oh, I'm too old. You're never
Mm-hmm.
too old. I didn't go back for my doctorate. No, I finished my doctorate when I was 56,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked myself when I started, oh, am I too old? I said, oh, no, I'm not. And I said, at the end of the day, when you look back, do you want to say, yes, I finished, or I wish I had? And I
Right.
said, I want to say I'm finished. And I found that it's been encouraging to other people, young people, because, well, people of all ages, really, because they are encouraged that they can keep going.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that puts the brakes on you is you.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I remember when I first started as a PT, there were two other PTs. One was 10 years older than me, and one was 20 years older than me. And I valued them so heavily because, yeah, I had the new latest and greatest knowledge that came out of school. And then, like, I'm sure you know, you walk to the bedside and it's like, well, none of that really helps you right now. This doesn't look textbook anymore. And I hope that our listeners also hear that you have incredible value to offer at every piece and part of your life, every decade, every 5 years. And I think women sell themselves short so often, like you said a few minutes ago, well, I can't go back, or I'm too old for that now. You're not. And I hope that this conversation encourages you if you're thinking about pivoting or stepping out or going back to school at in your 50s to get your PhD, that yes, if that lights your soul on fire, that is why we're here.
That's why we're here, to live, to contribute, to make a difference. And we cannot forget that how we live teaches everyone that we care about. It teaches our grandchildren, it teaches our children, it teaches our neighbors on to have hope and to have vision and to not give up. I think
Mhm.
one of the values of being at this season in my life is I can tell a younger person, you will get through this. I know
Mhm.
it feels traumatic that the boyfriend didn't marry you. I know it feels life, changing, that your life plan of being married with a house and two kids at 32 has not happened yet, but you will live through this.
Mhm.
Your job has changed, but you will live through this. And everything is not going to change your life permanently. It just depends upon you. You will get through it, because I've been
Right.
through it at least 5 times. Actually, Dr. Wynn, I feel like I earned another degree in being mergered, because I've been mergered that 5 times, at least 5 times in my career.
Oh my gosh, that makes me think of all of the different EMR software changes I've gone through over the years.
Yes,
Um, let's take it back for just a second and talk a little bit about trauma-informed care. That
yes.
is a new term for a lot of people, and they're not sure what it is. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it's incredibly important in every aspect of care, not just healthcare.
Oh, yes. So I first want to begin with a acronym called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. Those are
Okay.
things that happen in a person's life, either community violence, having a sick parent, parents getting divorced, uh, abuse, incest, poverty, the social drivers of health, having a good job, access to health care, education, those things. So the research shows that trauma can even begin in utero. So when a
Mhm.
mother is pregnant and they're highly stressed, that impacts the development of the baby. That
Mhm.
baby is born and they can, if they're not nurtured, held and loved, then babies can experience post-traumatic stress as well. And they're responding, their brains are developing when they hear noises, when they hear yelling, when their needs are not met. So that baby becomes a child and their brain development is impacted by their environment and the number of adverse childhood experiences that they have in their life. The research shows that though when a child has good caregivers, when people come into their life that are supportive, some of that negative brain development can be changed. But the point being is that uh, it's estimated that over 60%, it was estimated prior to the pandemic that over 60% of all Americans had at least one adverse childhood experience. That means
Oh, wow.
everywhere we go, in the grocery
That's
store,
a
in the
huge
mall,
number.
in a movie, we're encountering someone that may have had some type of trauma in their life. So when we encounter people or experiences that don't always give us the response. Some people don't respond the way we think they should, when they don't have the motivation we think they should in meetings, when that might not be that something's wrong with them. Trauma-informed care makes us consider what has happened to them, not what is wrong with them, so that we
Mhm.
engage with people with kindness and empathy, not judgment, which is really important in today's society when people are so heightened, their emotions are so heightened around judgment and disrespect. We could be triggering people to behave in ways that we don't want by not pausing and being kind.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and I think too, I know in my own ignorance in earlier years, I thought of trauma and PTSD only revolving around like sexual abuse or physical abuse or horrific childhood experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And forgetting that poverty, natural disasters, divorce, a death of a family, like any of those things
Any
can
other?
cause PTSD or lead to, I don't want to say different behaviors because this isn't my area of expertise, but lead into everything that you just spoke about. And I think back to the fact that you just spoke at the beginning about your parents growing up in Jim Crow America. Is there evidence of generational childhood trauma from that era?
Oh, yes. So research shows that trauma can transcend 3 generations.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So your grandparents likely gave your parents behaviors, beliefs, and fears
Yes.
about, and they transfer, well, those to potentially you. In my case, my parents grew up, as I said, in a horrific part of our history, and
Mhm.
they were really intent that I hold my head up, that I let everybody I know I am intelligent, I am strong, and so you don't let anybody walk over you, and
Mhm.
that's how you show up. So I'm six
Right.
foot tall, and if you can imagine a 6 foot tall woman standing over patients with their hands folded, I am your nurse today, or, you know, and so I am here to help you. And, and because I must speak correctly. And when I was engaging with other colleagues, I was told I had an air of being standoffish and being, I was too good. And my manager said, I had a good manager, and she said, Melanie, you a good nurse. You do all the things, you're a good nurse, but people don't read you well.
I think every high achieving woman in the room today has
Yeah,
had
yeah,
that sentence
they're
said to
not
them.
reading you well. And I'm like, what do you mean? And so I realized that while I was had learned from my parents to protect myself in certain ways emotionally, that it wasn't reading well
Mhm.
outside. And so that is just an example, maybe a light one, of how trauma, a past trauma, can impact behaviors. In other instances, it could impact how you eat. It can impact what you believe about your health, your self-esteem, your motivation. If you find you're anxious, and depressed, was that a learned behavior from your family, or just part of the traumatic experiences that is passed down? So it's passed down through child rearing, through emotional behaviors, emotional training. So trauma does transcend 3 generations, and people don't always know it. But women, if you find that there are patterns in your life that you need to change, it could be, you're carrying sometimes the behaviors of your mother. I have some learned behaviors of Janine, and I had to let those go.
Same. It's interesting, when my daughter still has anxious tendencies for sure, but especially during COVID, there was a significant level of anxiety. And I looked back, I'm an anxious personality a lot of times. My mom is incredibly anxious. My grandmother was very anxious. And I really started thinking about, okay, how much of this is learned and how much of this is genetics? And arguably, you can't change your genetics, but being aware and open to coaching and
Hmm.
therapy or any of and above all the things, you can learn strategies. And just like you, I had my boss pretty much said the same thing to me, and I was floored because it was more of a, you're not approachable. And I thought,
Yes. And I'm like, me,
really? Me? I mean, I was shocked.
me too.
And I've worked for years. And I said that to a relatively new friend the other day, and she was like, what are you talking about? You don't send off those vibes. And I said, but I did. I did years ago. And I think for some women, and I love your thoughts on this, I think for some women, especially for me, it was also a protective layer. It was like my credentials and my education are here. I'm back here and I'm safe back here. And letting my guard down to not be perfect all the time or show up in a certain way all the time definitely affected those interactions.
Well, it does, because sometimes it's safer, and it's easier to just keep you there by those credentials. I don't want to fail. It's safe, it's easy. I can
Yeah.
coast, I can go on autopilot, I can get the things done. It doesn't cost me that much time just to roll, right? But when you really want to grow, and you really people don't care how much you know, they want to know how much you care, right? And
Right.
so by putting those barriers down, people really could see how that I care. And it really did, in the long run, open up more opportunities for me, because I
Mhm.
developed more allies, more mentors, more relationships with people, and I got to give back as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, I've been a physical therapist for 15 years, so I haven't been in healthcare as long as you, but I've seen there definitely be a change in attitude and a desire to learn about trauma-informed care. When you started this journey, how is it received in your healthcare systems?
Well, my system was very open to it. It is still necessary, I believe, to help and educate other organizations of the need. Where we have workplaces, and environments where you could have 7 generations working together. And we have to understand how they show up and why. We have a shortage of workers. We want to retain them. So it's not like you're going to necessarily go up and say, hey, Corey, tell me about your trauma. I'm that manager.
Right.
I want you to tell all here. You're
Right.
not going to do that. But it's being, as a leader, sensitive to, well, maybe Jane is quiet and I need to help engage her. I
Mhm.
shouldn't judge her and give about being quiet and say she's not motivated, she doesn't want to do anything, she's not hungry. I might need to bring her in, him or
Mhm.
her in. Or rather than giving all of the accolades to that very naturally effervescent, gregarious person, because they're hungry, because have that bias that this is what someone who's motivated looks like. I think
Mhm.
trauma-informed care considers without bias that everyone has had something in their history. So why don't I reach out, extend my kindness, extend mentorship, give everyone an opportunity? The easy thing for a leader is just to go to the one who's out there, who's easy to
Right.
talk to. But is that really the right thing to do as a
Mhm.
leader?
I
Because
love
there are
that.
many people who, if you just give them a chance, will change. I remember that I was mentoring a young woman. I met a young woman. She was a staff nurse. I said, "Girl, you bright as all get out." I said, "You need to." I just decided, I think you need to change your role. So she said, "Oh, but I don't know. I can't." And she's very quiet. I said, "Oh, yes, you can." So I rewrote a resume. I wrote a resume myself.
Oh, I love that.
There's a position that I thought she could go for based on all of her experience, and she got the job. So this job, all of a sudden, once she got it and she had the support, she changed. The quiet person wasn't so quiet. Now
Mhm.
she's top leader in her organization, one of the top managers. She's meeting all the goals, and now she's going back to school. I had another young woman who thought, I can never. She cried, she whined. Like I'd never heard crying and whine before in my life. I said, "Oh, let's get you a mentor." And so she got through school. Once she got the mentor, I got her an internship. She became top in her class, graduated, hundreds on all the tests, graduated, took her family out of poverty, first person in her family to buy a home, sent me a picture of her brand new $350,000 home, texts me that she's taken her children on one international trip a year.
I
Right?
love
And this is
that.
a person who couldn't speak. I mean,
Mhm.
she couldn't talk. I'm like, girl, come on, let's get something out
Uh-huh.
here. And now, but it's just giving people a chance. And that's
Yes.
what trauma-informed care does, is having an empathetic mindset where we see everyone, treat everyone with grace, mercy, and kindness, and we bring out the best of them, considering what has happened, not what is wrong.
Well, and I think that's also what makes an incredible leader. That you look around at all the people who you could help move forward and really invest in the people you work around. I think we all know that healthcare by and large, you're not going to make, you're not going to become a billionaire
No,
as a nurse or a physical
no,
therapist.
that hasn't happened.
You're not. But what allows people to move forward and continue to be successful is people like you who look around and say, you have a gift. And I think people forget how important mentorship is. And having that person, when you don't believe in yourself at all, to have them say, yes, you can, and I'm going to help you. Here's my hand, and I'm going to pull you with me. Because
Yes.
I've had those people, and I'm so thankful for them because I wouldn't be who I am without people like you.
My mentor told me, her name is Dr. Gloria Gilmer. She was the first African American woman mathematician. And she said to me, "Melanie, we must lift as we climb." And I say that everywhere I go. All of us must lift as we climb. But I think also, Dr. Wynn, it's important to acknowledge and respect people who are happy just doing what they're doing.
Right.
Everyone isn't looking to climb. Everyone isn't
Right.
looking for a promotion. Some people are happy in their role. They're not looking to move. It works for their boundaries that they need for their life and their family. And that needs to be respected too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think for our younger listeners today too, something that I feel like I probably learned a little bit the hard way is also coming out of school, regardless of where you go, you are given the latest and greatest information. And I remember I went from UNC Chapel Hill for PT school to rural North Carolina for my first job. And I walked in and I don't even remember what piece of equipment I asked for, but the therapist looked at me and they were like, "You do know where you are, right?" And recognizing and humbling myself that everything that I thought I knew, that I thought I was going to bring to the table, might have to be molded a little differently and the package might have to be opened a little more slowly. And my uncle's passed away, but he lived with a spinal cord injury. And And the other humbling thing that I've learned, and I'd love for you to speak on this, is listening, truly listening to your patients. Because I came in all high and mighty, thinking I knew everything as a physical therapist, and told him what he needed to be doing and how he needed to be doing it. And he said, let me know how that works out for you when you've been in a chair as long as I have. And I have never forgotten that. So, can you speak a little bit to how your patients have received you since those eye-opening experiences, since the focus on trauma-informed care?
Yes. So with the organization that I was with, one of the things that we saw was that our engagement scores went up and our patient satisfaction scores went up when we focused on listening. Healthcare trauma is real, and
Mhm.
often healthcare professionals judge patients for not being able to keep their appointments, get their medication. They have no understanding of the community that their patients are living in. They could be living in the food desert. They might not have transportation.
Mhm.
So rather than judging them and calling them non-compliant and frequent flyers and why are they back, we have to understand again, what was the situation? What could we have done better? Why would we schedule a patient to have a consult 20 miles away and we don't even know if they have a car?
Right. Oh,
So
yeah.
we do things to patients. And so by listening and asking, we have this consult we'd like to make for you. This is the location. Is it a place you can get to? That
Mhm.
reduces trauma.
Mhm.
You have some new prescriptions that we'd like you to start upon discharge. Do you want them sent to this location, or should I make an attempt to have them filled for you here? We
Mhm.
have to have the conversation because many times in healthcare we make the work all about us. I'm
Mhm.
busy. I've got my check marks in that Epic or in the EHR,
Right?
right? I've got to get those checks because I'm
Yes.
going to be audited and I need all my check boxes filled, right?
Mhm.
So sometimes healthcare workers make the care about us and we don't make it about the patient, and then we
Mhm.
traumatize them.
And it also, you have to realize, most of my population and the patients who I see have neurological disabilities, either spinal cord injury or progressive neurological diseases, and they may not be driving anymore. They,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, they may not have access to a car, or because of their diagnosis, their blood pressure fluctuates. So they can't give you 24 hours notice of canceling an appointment because they woke up this morning and their blood pressure is 80 over 50. And I think from a healthcare perspective, if we all look back and say, okay, I'm going to give grace to people in my space today, whether that's my coworkers, whether that's my patients, and really, like you said, listen to what's behind what they're telling you. I mean, I had a patient several years ago who they were getting ready to discharge and therapies were sent in kind of last minute. And I came back out and I said, "Do you know that they don't have running water? That their heat was cut off?" And they were like, "What?" I'm like, "We this isn't a safe discharge plan." So
Mm-hmm.
all of those things to say, I love what you're doing and the importance behind it. Is there any specific story or takeaway that you feel like from the trauma informed care piece that you really want our listeners to hear from you?
Well, I'd like them to know that trauma is real and it affects a large percentage, over 60%. So everywhere we go, we are encountering potentially people who have had trauma. And it has no color, no race, no educational background.
Mhm.
So we must treat people with kindness. When you're at work, be kind to your coworkers. You don't know what someone's history has been.
Mhm.
I worked with someone and and I found out, I said, I noticed something was going on with them and I pulled them aside and they told me, well, I'm having trouble because my 14-year-old daughter has been acting out. I told you that. I didn't tell you that she wants to know who her father is, and her father is actually her grandfather. Now,
Mhm.
Dr. Wynn, I couldn't absorb that right away,
Oh yeah.
you
Oh
know.
yeah.
So I had to help, we would get her help. And there are many stories like that among us. So it's
Mhm.
so important not to judge patients, not to judge people, and we shouldn't judge ourselves. And
Mhm.
if we now from this conversation, if your listeners here that recognize that maybe they've had some trauma that they need to have resolved, get the help. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with getting help when you need it because you are on a positive, progressive perspective, and your present, no matter how old you are, does not have to dictate your future. And there's
Right.
greatness in you.
Right. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. And I think too, as healthcare professionals, we want to fix people. I mean, that is
Mhm.
literally our job. You come in,
Exactly.
you get labs, you have a broken bone, you have therapy. I mean, whatever it is, we fix people. And I think what I'm also hearing from you too is when you said, I don't know how to handle that, being honest with ourselves. I am a physical therapist.
Hmm.
I am not a psychologist.
No,
I am not a
ma'am.
social worker. It's okay for me to not know, but to have the resources in my pocket to say, hey, would you like some help with that? And I think what I've heard from you too is asking the open-ended question and listening for the response. Because just like you said, I wasn't ready to hear that. They might not be ready to work through it either. And it was just something that they could say in the moment and then kind of pull back from.
In healthcare, we don't really have the time as much as we'd like to help people through life changing situations, but we
Mhm.
can help as we can, giving people the resources and support services. And even for
Mhm.
ourselves, if you have an employee assistance program at your job, use it. It's
Yes.
a free
Yes.
resource. If you need it, use it
Mhm.
proudly.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Well, I also want to be super respectful of your time, and I have a little bit of a pivot. So, you've talked about all of the different ways that you've pivoted through life up to this point and the next steps that you've taken. A lot of what we focus on here in Empower Her Radio too is avoiding burnout and stress and really maintaining healthy boundaries and focusing on taking care of yourself while some of us have like burned everything to the ground to move forward or slowly pivoted. So, how have you continued to take care of yourself over the years through these beautiful revelations of life?
Well, I'm going to sing a little tune for you, Dr. Wynn. Put yourself on your calendar
Oh, I
and
love
do
that.
not move the date. Put yourself on your calendar. Your self-care cannot wait. And this is what you have to do. You have to put yourself on your calendar. You have to make time to recharge.
Mhm.
Your paras when you're continually in stress, your parasympathetic system doesn't get to help you relax.
Mhm.
So you're always on fire, and that's not a good way to live. So
Mhm.
the big first thing is to be honest, scan yourself, scan your life, scan your body, and then tell yourself the truth. That's not when I from my scan I understand what is not working. And then I'm going to be own the fact that I need to make a change. And then I'm going to prioritize my change, and
Mhm.
I am going to be intentional about my change for 90 days, for 3 weeks, and then for 90 days, and then you'll get to 6 months. And then you got to be willing to transform. It takes work. The person that has the most surgery is going to have the most pain, but they also have the greatest outcome, right? To live for. That transplant patient is going to be really glad that they went through that surgery and had the rehab and had the life. Same thing with
Mhm.
us. We have to make ourselves a priority. Stop it. Stop what's not working. Do the work.
I love that. I literally had that conversation with myself and AI over the holidays and realized that my family was getting the last of me rather than the first of me. And I thought, no, this stops now. And I hope our audience hears that is not selfish in the derogatory, selfish way that
Mhm.
we've been taught. It
That's
is
right.
incredibly important for you to be selfish with your time and your space and your boundaries because this is your only life. And you don't want to whittle it away in burnout and stress when you could be taking your international vacation or you're moving
Yeah,
on
I
to the
mean,
next thing.
Dr. Wynn, I'm not trying to be negative, so I'm not trying to be dark when I say this, okay? But people spend so much time in their careers and they retire around 65, right? And then whenever God calls them to transition, their kids, nobody knows what they did.
Mhm.
It's not the legacy. That's not the legacy you want to leave. The kids will, I said, oh, I met your mother. Your mother was wonderful. We did this and this together. Oh, she did that.
Mhm.
I'm like, they have no idea. So what I'm
Mhm.
saying is, what is the legacy that you want to leave? Because your
Mhm.
career is not everything. And once they turn you off and you're no longer in the organization, you have lost friends, you have lost, uh, many your calendar, your priorities, but you can build a new life. You have to plan for it. And remember,
Mhm.
the legacy you want to live is your children, your family. Were you kind? Who did you invest in? Those
Mhm.
things you can take past your career. And
Yes.
it's important to set those boundaries around work so that you build your whole life.
Yes. Oh, that's so important. And it's the same for children. You know, arguably, most children grow up and move out. And you are left. So you also have to have a life outside of your children
You
as
do.
well as your job so that you're not just like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the road. What do I
And
do
it's going
now?
to happen, right? So you have to plan for it.
Yes.
Plan for your new life.
This has been such a beautiful conversation. I want to make sure our audience knows how to get in touch with you, how to follow you, how to work with you if they so choose. So, how can they do that?
Go to Dr. Melanie Gray, theconfidencecoach.com.
Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such fun.
For everyone listening, I hope you felt this conversation. Be sure to connect with Dr. Melanie, whether it's through her work, her resources, or following her on social. And as always, if this episode resonated, share it with a woman who's ready to stop pivoting and start living. Until next time, keep choosing alignment, expansion, and overflow.
As we close out today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Your next level is already within you. If you're feeling that pull for more clarity, more alignment, and more courage to step fully into who you're meant to be, this is your invitation to take the next step. Whether you're an entrepreneur ready to scale or a woman standing at the edge of something bigger, the path forward starts with trusting your desires, owning your worth, and leading with your inner knowing. This is exactly what I offer. Private VIP coaching, and where I guide women inside the 10K Club and 50K Club through consulting with She Sells and Superhuman Selling to help you gain clarity, step into aligned action, and build a life and business that reflects your highest vision. If you're ready to explore what's next, let's have a conversation. Book a free call now at www.corywinn.com/free call. I can't wait to connect with you. Talk soon.